Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. We are so happy that you are here with us. Want to welcome my co host, Dr. Ricardo White. Welcome. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you as well, Sister Tante.
And please put in the chat where you are viewing from. Put in the chat where you're viewing from. And I want to see if I want to first say that Clint put in the chat that he's sorry that he won't be able to be here for the whole program because he has an evangelistic series to go to this evening. So we completely understand that, Clint, and Clint is definitely one of our regulars. And so we'll miss you, Clint, but you can also replay it after you get home this evening or tomorrow. So we'll miss you, Clint, but
Same here.
thank
We'll
you for
miss you.
checking in and letting us know where you are going to be.
Absolutely.
That was really sweet. So we have Courtney from Georgia. Welcome, Courtney. And we have Denise from California.
It's my neck of the woods. Hi, Denise.
Yes, your neck of the woods and my home.
We got, looks like we have Janet from the Bronx. We love that.
That's I don't know if the Bronx is your neck of the woods, but
Brooklyn,
New York,
Brooklyn.
You're Brooklyn. Yeah, okay. Yeah. That was your first home. Like California is my home. You came and you adopted it, but so California is my home, and then we adopted you, I guess. Deborah.
Everybody knows New York is the capital of the world, though. So.
Well, yeah. Let's see. There was Deborah from Trinidad and Tobago, I believe, and then I think another person from Trinidad, Carolina, from New Jersey. Welcome,
Karen from Jamaica. Hello,
yes. Karen. We have Jim from Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. Welcome.
Nice.
It's good to have you here.
Carolina from New Jersey. Wonderful.
Yes. You can keep putting where you're viewing from in the chat, but I also want to know if any of you were successful on bringing a young person or a young adult to this evening's program, because we are talking about the single life and giving tips on answering your questions basically about those issues that you may be going through. So put a 1 in the chat if you at least invited someone. Put a 1 and a 2 in the chat if a young person or a young adult is watching with you. So let's see who did their homework. Because when you're in therapy, you get homework or assignments to do in the middle of the week. Let's see. You guys this is not therapy, but let's see if you guys did it.
Exactly. And we got
good. Okay, Courtney.
Shout out
Courtney, at least invited.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Very nice. Courtney, love it. Love it, Courtney. Yes. That's awesome.
You tried to do that. Also, I was going to ask, I was thinking we should get Mental Health Monday t-shirts.
Oh, that'd be hot. That'd be awesome.
Yes, we should. Yes, we're going to work on that. And so you guys can be like promoting the program when just
absolutely
going around wherever you live, and we'll have to think of some catchy phrase, but we're going to work on that. I thought of that because I was like, if you do this, you can win a t-shirt, but
right. Like
Amber wants a t-shirt.
Clint is so devoted. He already won one. So yeah, we'll
yes.
Well, in some sad news, our hearts and our prayers are going out to Ralph Yarl and his family.
Yes.
The teenager, I believe he's a teenager, right?
He's 16 years old.
Yeah, 16-year-old who suffered gun violence just in the process of trying to pick up his family members. So
yeah, his brother. I think it was his brother. He knocked on the incorrect door, the wrong house.
Right, and so our hearts and prayers are definitely going out to him, and for the day that this kind of thing will come to an end. Really sad.
Yes, it's very, very, very sad. So yeah, we're praying for them and his family, praying for him that he will have, I don't know what the status is. I don't know if he's like in ICU, if it's touch and go. I'm not sure, but we're just praying that he will
pull through
and
have a full recovery, because, these injuries can at times be life-changing,
Yes.
So
Yes.
Okay, and
Right.
then even after you know, recover physically, you then have to also recover mentally.
Mentally.
So they're
Yes.
the scars that no one sees. So we're
Oh,
really
'cause this is
we're
definitely a trauma. This is
yeah,
definitely a trauma, and, the anxiety that yeah, that comes with
definitely,
that, and so definitely praying for his mental and physical health and for his family as well.
absolutely. Yeah,
We
go ahead.
I was just gonna say we're continuing our conversation, just segueing out of that very sad news, that we're continuing our conversation about singles. This is our third part. I think on my Instagram I put living. We're talking about living single and how to do that in a healthy way. And we're taking your questions. So we're taking your questions. Please put them in the chat. Um, and we'll be taking your questions. But while people are thinking of their questions, Dr. White, I think I'm going to ask you a first question. And I don't think I've asked you this. We've done it 3 times. So if I have, just give me another answer then. But the question to you is, what would you wish you would have known when you were a young adult dating or before you got married that you know now when you were single?
Um,
We
what do
didn't
I
plan
wish
this,
I would
so
have known? What's that?
I was telling everyone we didn't plan this, so we're going to give them
No, no,
time to
no. That, but
think.
that's a really, really good question. Clearly, Sister Tante flexing her therapeutic skills. What do I wish I had known? Um, I wish I would have known how important it is to approach dating with a mindset of what what can I what can I offer? You
Mm,
know,
mhm,
what can I bring to this? And less so, well, what can I get out of this?
right.
Um, you know, I'll tell you something interesting. I'll tell you. So, um, my mother was a single parent, right?
Mhm,
And so I remember even having a stepfather at one point.
mm,
And in the in the dating world, sometimes a single parent is viewed as, you know, well, it's a downside because here they have these kids.
yeah.
I don't know what happened, but now I'm hearing an echo. So I don't know if anything changed or what.
I
But
I don't hear an echo.
okay, good deal. Well, so I'm intrigued by what a blessing it would have been, you know, if someone would have approached it as, hey, look, I can be a positive impact in these young people's lives.
Mm,
What am I bringing to the situation?
mhm,
Um, as opposed to just, hey, what can I get out of the situation?
mm,
So I think that would have positioned me to understand then going forward in marriage, like your job in marriage is make the goals of the family firm get realized. That's your
mhm,
goal. It's
mhm.
not a matter of roles and who does this and who does that. It's whatever your hands find to do, do with all your might,
Right.
and push the agenda forward. Like that's the priority.
Mhm.
So I wish I would have had more of that mindset in dating. Now that said, I didn't date exclusively at all. I like to joke that I married 50% of the people I dated. You know, um, so I only dated two people. So FYI.
Yeah, well, yeah, I got the math on that, so okay. Yeah, I mean, I can say seriously well, I can't say 2, but seriously, you seriously dated 2. So I can say I seriously dated 3, 4.
Okay.
Seriously. Seriously. Okay, seriously. Um, but, yes, I there was a comment up there that I think, or somebody said, "I wish I would have dated more so I would have been able to recognize red flags much easier and not made the wrong choices." Yes, I think, dating, um yeah, dating, because somebody said they would have wished they would have waited to more into their 20s to date. Because when you're dating as a young person, I mean, as a young, like a teenager, I mean, 16, 17, 18, 19, okay, 20, I guess you're supposed to be a little bit more mature then. You may not notice red flags as well as you can in your 20s. But you learn lessons, you learn from those experiences, and you learn you learn things and you learn what you don't want sometimes when you have negative experiences. But we're definitely more mature once we are in. We should be, I should say. Let me clarify that. We should be more mature when we're in our 20s than we were in our later teens.
Sis, before we
For
go into
sure.
the questions, I got to return the favor. What do you wish? What do you wish you
I
would have?
wish I would have. Let me take a little time to think about it so I answer it really correctly. One thing. I wish I would have really recognized my self worth more than I did at that time. That I should have known that I was, worth more than the value that I was putting on myself at that time. So,
Profound, profound. Yeah, I
for
mean, it's
sure.
like it's interesting how, especially, with having a daughter, it's like you can't say enough. You're beautiful, you're intelligent, you're,
Right.
just pouring it on you. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to defer to Amra here. We do have
Okay.
a question. What are our thoughts on online dating? What are our thoughts on online dating? Like, what you go first? Yeah.
I for the world that we live in now, of course you can find negative things online, you can find negative things in person, right? So I think that I know people, even Christian people who are very happily married who met online. So and then I of course know people who didn't meet online. So I don't have anything negative to say that it's wrong. Um, just to be very careful and make sure that those filters are working correctly because you're filter, there's filter on those online dating things where you can put all the things that you want, that you're looking for. But and even in like you already need to get to know somebody really, really well. But when you meet them online, I think that just to be safe and to be careful, of course, and that's even if you meet somebody in person.
Mhm.
But because they're online and you're not actually seeing them face to face, and you're not able to meet other people that they know right away, that you have to really be careful, do your research. I would even say, I would go as far to say, ask for, it's almost like you're doing an interview, like you're an employer, right? Ask for references to speak to other people who know them. I mean, hey, you want to make sure you don't know them and they're not in person. So I think that would be perfectly okay to make sure that you're getting to know a real person who doesn't have issues. Because I have heard bad things for online dating. I've heard people who have been scammed and all those type of things. That can happen in person too. So, but just to be very safe and to be careful, that's the only thing I would say. But I know people who are happily married who met online.
I would echo those sentiments. And I would definitely say, um, background checks, and
All
these
that.
are, yeah, these are things that you should really think about. And I love the notion of trying to verify.
Who they are.
Yeah, I believe you. I still want to verify. You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
I think verification is a big deal. You have to remember that when you're in the realm of dating, you are talking about placing yourself in very vulnerable positions.
Hmm.
Um, and steps, taking the necessary steps to ensure your safety, that's your responsibility. You know, um, even if you're not going to end up lying next to this person, because hopefully you're going to be conservative in your dating. Let's say,
Right.
you guys, we're presuming you're Christians, right? You still have to be sometimes in a car with this person. You still like at the mercy of, sometimes maybe if they're going to pick you up at your home, they're going to know where you live. So
Right.
it behooves you to really take some time to take necessary precautionary steps. And
Hmm.
if it's an online setting, then it just kind of ratchets it up even more to make sure that you're actually safe.
Yeah, everything that we shared, I would say that for in person too. Do research on the
Absolutely.
person you are meeting in person. Uh,
Absolutely.
Cindy is saying, where are all the quality Adventist men over 40 years old? It's hard to meet them as a single 44-year-old woman.
You
Oh no,
know,
I keep thinking we need to start a singles ministry for Living at a Church where good single people can meet, but I don't know who's going to head that up. But let's pray about it. But go ahead, Dr. White.
we should do that, but Cindy is bringing up the really important point where in pop culture today, you're hearing women be told you can relegate serious dating and even marital concerns till later in life. That's what's really being pursue your education, pursue your career, go out. And let me confess, I was saying this kind of stuff myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when in fact the reality is once you leave college, um, and as you grow older, like a lot of times, people
Mm-hmm.
who you would consider more compatible, they tend to get married off, so that if prioritizing that kind of thing is delayed, you can then reduce your prospects so that now you end up in a situation where, like Cindy's asking, hey, where are the quality, people, that are beyond 44?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they've chosen to get married, earlier on. Now that said, so my thing would just be think twice about just relegating it to later,
Mm-hmm.
because when you can find that partner that you connect with and you can build a life with, that's a huge thing that I think the culture is mistaken in saying just disregard it till later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so where are they? Where are they, Sister Tante?
Oh no, I don't have an answer to where they are. I mean, you know what? It's interesting that you say that. I don't know. It's interesting. I was having a conversation with one of my daughters today, and um, gosh, I'm not trying to give out too much information. So, anyways, basically, I was I was just reassuring her that because she was like, I don't know, when you were at this school 25, 26 years ago, I think there was a better choice of young men that were available. I'll just put it that way. And I was like, actually, I see students, male students, and I have seen some really outstanding young men on this campus. I mean, they're out there, right? You just have to allow. I mean, I didn't go so deep with her like this, but I was just, but to everyone else, I mean, God will, I don't know where everyone is, but these people are out there, and God will bring them into your life at the right time. I guess I'll share a little bit of my story. My husband and our story is that, I was absolutely not looking for or dating anyone. Had just 6 months previously gotten out of a 2-year relationship, and I told God, I said, God, I don't want to date anyone that's not the next person I date, I want it to be the person that you want me to marry. And I said that prayer. I didn't even keep going back to it. You know how we pray over the same thing? I just prayed it once. And then I was just living my life. I was really starting to really have a very strong relationship with God at that time. So I was happy. I was really happy where I was being single. And literally God brought my husband to my doorstep. And that's a for real story. Like, I met him. He came to my home with a friend, uninvited, to a potluck that I was having. And that's how I met him. So my point to say that is, like, there's so much more to that story, but there's, like, if I had a choice to move to New York after school to take a job, but I decided to keep applying at other places because I didn't want to live in New York City. And he, at the same time, was coming down to Huntsville to go to school. And so if I would have taken that job in New York, we would have just, like, passed each other. Like, I would have gone up there, he would have come here. So my point is like, God heard my prayer and he wanted me to meet him on my doorstep at that time. And so I think it was Deborah. Yeah, Deborah, like, I know it doesn't seem like you're finding these people, like, you just don't see them every day. But if you pray that prayer and leave it in God's court, if you will, put the ball in God's court, he will bring that person.
Yeah, I think that was Cindy, if I'm not mistaken, that asked that question, but I could be wrong. But
Okay, maybe it was Cindy. Sorry,
but
Cindy.
but I think you're right that God does a wonderful job bringing people together that need to be together.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I would say your job is to, dare I say it, make yourself as competitive as possible. Um, I think sometimes it's worth imagining, hey, what is it that I want? What am I looking for? And then it's worth asking yourself, well, what is it that person wants?
Mm-hmm.
And then let me try to give them that thing in abundance, meaning equip yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because I think sometimes the focus is only on, hey, what I want. And then we don't ask ourselves, well, hey, what do they want?
Right.
Um, so that you can then position yourself to deliver that so that you can be competitive
Mm-hmm.
in terms of delivering that. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. So
Mm-hmm.
Deborah asks, is it
Yeah,
healthy for
this is Deborah.
yeah, is it healthy for a single person to run after another single person if they are interested in them, or should they wait for them to make the first move? What do you think, sis?
Well, I can just have another story, but so I think there's definitely I don't think there's anything wrong. There's nothing um, that's morally wrong with, I think, a female or a male, obviously, making the first move, or at least just kind of testing the waters, maybe, dropping little clues. I think you're being intentional to at least say, hey, I'm interested, and if you're not, that's okay, but I'm interested in however you want to drop those clues or let the person know. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I did something similar. Because I met my husband, but we just getting to know each other. He told me his story right away, and I was just telling him a little bit about my life, and then we went our separate ways. But then we saw each other again. I think a week later at a prayer meeting, and I told my friend that I was just going to be very nonchalant and just give him something that he had asked for when we first met, which was like a copy of a song that he really liked that I was playing, a gospel song I was playing at my house. And I was like, I'm just going to give it to him and then walk away. And if he says something else, then I'll know like he may be a little interested. So I did that thing and then I walked away and he said, hey, can I call you? And then that was my clue to say, okay, you're interested.
Uh,
But anyway,
for a little context, that means she made him a cassette.
yes,
That
yes.
took some,
But
that took some work back in the day.
yes, I made him a cassette because he liked it was a Fred Hammond song. I don't Fred Hammond of his what CD was that? I remember. I should know. Anyways, I can't remember right now, but it was Fred Hammond. I know it was Fred Hammond.
It was an 8-track cassette. No, I'm playing.
It was a little cassette.
But those cassettes, I mean, like, so that took some effort. So that was a statement in and of itself. But the point being, even back in the day when women would drop a handkerchief, that was literally the first move.
Mm,
So they literally
true.
opened the door for the person to make the first move. No, actually dropping the handkerchief was the first move.
Right.
So Deborah, make the move.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't know that at the time. My husband's actually people probably don't know if they don't know him personally, but he's actually kind of shy. He's an introvert. So he has to feel really strongly to kind of I don't know, introverts, he just doesn't want to put himself out there. He doesn't want to embarrass himself. He's shy. So gave him a little like,
You wouldn't know that.
there you go. No, you wouldn't know that, but he is. When he's preaching, he doesn't seem that way, but he's shy. Okay, I feel like there was another one. How do you verify motives? Jamie's asking how you verify motives. That's actually a good question. And I'm
Jamie,
going to
thank
let
you.
you answer that.
Yeah, thank you for that question. This may be true for ladies as well. So, Sister Tanta, you'll have to let me know. But I think one of the mistakes women can sometimes make in their interactions with men is over relying on our words rather than making sure that our words are lining up with our actions. So I would say, Jamie, as you're looking to see, hey, what is a person's motives? I think first of all, it's important to converse with them, and it's important to get as much clarity as possible. But I think making sure that actions are lining up with words can kind of clue you in on that. But Jamie, I think conversing with them is really important because I think it creates a lot of psychological and relational problems when we think that we're doing mind reading and
Mm-hmm.
we think that we're guessing what a person's thoughts and motives are rather than just talking about it and getting explicit. Um,
Mm.
the foundation, the foundation of relationships is truth. That's the foundation. And you want that to be so baked into your relating. And truth, for me at least anyway, occurs on two levels. The first is where you're honest. So if someone asks you something, you respond with honesty. And then,
Mm-hmm.
Jamie, the next level is transparency,
Mm-hmm.
where you deliver the truth even without being asked. And these are some core disciplines to really build into your relating at all levels, especially as you're looking at developing a romantic connection with someone. You would want that they're truthful about their motives. They're both honest and in time they're transparent.
Mm-hmm. And I think going back to like it might sound crazy, but really doing your own like research and getting verification on the person's character by, talking to people that know them, asking. I mean, I know that sounds a little crazy. Like when you're first meeting somebody, you may not want to say that, but I think that that's, perfectly fine. And I think you can find out sooner than later if you just want to pass on this person because you feel like maybe they're not being as honest about their intentions or, um,
In
yeah.
the business world, we call it due diligence.
Yeah, like, you should do that. You're thinking about actually dating this person and if that, if you are dating intentionally, then you're dating to be married, at some point. So you definitely, um, should do something like that. Like, if you would ask me after me saying that, if you would ask me that question, what I wish I would have known now that I didn't know then is to do what I just said. And I would have saved myself a horrific 2-year relationship before I met my husband. I probably would have at least talked to this person's friends or other people that knew him to really find out more. Because once I was in, I was a little stuck, unfortunately. So yeah. I mean, I gave you a good story, my husband, but I had a bad story before I met him. So these are the horror stories you want to dodge.
Sis, so we'll come to should we become like Ruth, but how do you get out of a bad relationship?
So, like I said, this was like a 2-year journey, and I literally did not have the strength to get out. And I'll give a little bit more to that. It was an emotionally abusive relationship. So he had my mind, and I was not thinking clearly. But I prayed. I never forget this, but I prayed at a prayer meeting at the Oakwood University Church, middle row, fourth row. I remember it like I got to take a picture of that pew. And I remember it was actually Dr. Pollard was the pastor at the time, and he was preaching on last day events, or I just remember it was a prophecy message. And I knelt down and I said, God, by any means necessary, save me and help me get out of this relationship.
Amen.
The next day, there was a series of events that happened, and I had all the strength in the world, and I ended it then.
Mercy.
So, I mean, I can prayer. And
Prayer.
if you're not in that type of relationship, but you know someone that is, pray for them. My mom was praying for me throughout constantly. And so God answered her prayers, but my prayer definitely that night. So I don't know if you have a more clinical answer
No,
on how you get out of
no,
relationships, but
I think a lot of people may find themselves in the situation you described. And
mhm.
so, as somebody that has escaped it, I thought you might have some insight from that perspective. Now, plus you're a therapist,
Yeah.
so so no, that's helpful. I mean, That's super
It's
helpful.
not easy. It's not easy, especially when you've connected with this person, and even though they're
While Sister Tante is talking, Carolina, maybe you could expand on that question. What you mean? Should we become like Ruth? Go
yeah.
ahead, Sister Tante.
Well, I was just going to say it's not easy, especially if you've connected to this person in a way that God doesn't want you to connect with them. There's bonds that are, that are there that shouldn't be there, and just make it even that more difficult to get out of. But when
Right.
you're in it, just a physical abusive or emotionally abusive, there's a lot of manipulation that happens. You start to believe those things, and it really is a process. And yeah, I really don't have anything clinical to say except
No, but
God
that was
delivers us, because
right.
it's difficult. It's difficult. It's
Yeah, I
difficult.
I think I think then from the other end, it's while you still have your faculties, um, it's so critical to trust your community.
Yes.
Um, so critical to trust your community and respond to their feedback. And if they're seeing something you're not seeing, it is important to give weight to it.
I'm so
So
glad you
super,
said
super.
that. And that is true, because that is true. I'm so glad you said that, because my mother was seeing things. And so if there's a young person watching and listening, or will watch and listen as you review this program, listen to take what the person who loves you the most on this earth, which is your parents, your mother or father, both, um, to take their counsel very seriously. And then I have friends, we laugh about it now, but this is 26, 27 years after. And a lot of them call me Tony, and they're like, Tony, we were so worried about you then, and we saw it very clearly. And they were trying to tell me, things, but I wasn't listening to what they were saying. And if you see something in somebody that your friend is dating, to, don't be too afraid to speak up and say something in a way that you believe that your friend would hear it. It is scary, because you think, your friend might get mad at you, but it's worth taking that risk to help them not enter into that type of relationship, or help them get out of that relationship.
And
Okay.
and Carolina, we're coming to you, but Sister Tante, along the lines of that, I think the other issue is when a relationship ends in dating,
Mhm.
guys, thank your lucky stars.
Yes.
There's so many people who are crushed and they're crestfallen, and this is the end of the world. And you have no idea what a blessing it is that it's ending there, as
Mhm.
opposed to before you have children, before
Yes.
you have a home together, before you're totally reliant on this person. Like
Mhm.
the people who are experiencing those things, they're looking at you and they're thinking, run for the hills while you can. Okay, run. No, this
Yes.
is a good thing. Sometimes if they get stolen by somebody else, how much better now
Mhm.
versus when you are even more invested in this person and you have children and a life together. And now, no, find out before all of that happens. So when a relationship ends in dating, it can be so helpful and spare you much, much, much more pain later on. I know it doesn't possibly feel like that's possible, but I
Mhm.
assure you, when those bonds get broken after you have invested and built a life together, oh my
Mhm.
goodness. So
Yes, it's a
that,
lot.
yeah.
Yes, I praise God every day that He helped me dodge a huge bullet, 2 bullets actually, but dodge a bullet. But yes,
All right,
let's go.
Carolina, here we
Yes,
go.
Carolina.
Should we approach someone we are interested in them the same way Ruth did with Boaz? So for this, we have to go back to the context of the Ruth Boaz story. So we're talking about an Old Testament story in which we have the matriarch Ruth. Ruth started out where she was oh my goodness, I'm not going to think of the Moabites. She was living with the Moabites.
Right.
Ruth was with the Moabites. Naomi was an Israelite who moved to Moab, and in the process of doing so, her husband and 2 sons died. And so then Ruth decides, and Ruth was married to one of Naomi's sons. So
Mhm.
now Naomi wants to come back to Israel, and Ruth does an impassioned plea and actually goes with Naomi and says, "Your people will buy my people, your God, my God," and just really impassioned. The interesting thing in the story is where Naomi provided counsel to Ruth that resulted in Ruth meeting Boaz and then marrying Boaz and ultimately ending up in the lineage of Christ.
Mhm.
So it's a pretty amazing story.
It is an amazing story.
It's a really beautiful story. It's the book of Ruth.
Mhm.
So is where you can read it. And so you said, should we approach someone we're interested in them the same way Ruth did with Boaz? So Naomi gave Ruth some very specific instructions. They were actually in some ways controversial. And Ruth followed the instructions and ended up getting married. So that's a longer story. So the bigger principle to me in that question is: should you follow the advice of someone who is influential and maybe more advanced in age if they have some wisdom for you? It would seem like that might be logical.
Mhm.
I would say the wisdom should probably align with scripture, you know, and good common sense,
Right.
if it's worthy of being followed. That's how I would answer that, not knowing exactly what you mean by that per se. But that's the best guess I can provide. Um, okay.
Yes, I'm just scanning to see. So we're still taking your questions on single dating. Yeah,
I see
those questions.
Joanne made an interesting statement. She said, sometimes even when the relationship is abusive, you wrongly believe that your self-worth is in that relationship.
Right.
Joanne, that's a profound point. Were you wanting to comment on that, sister?
Right. I mean, I lived that. So I'm saying, right, that's true. Yeah. You think you feel that way because the person has to make you feel for you to stay. And I know that personally, to stay in a relationship like that, that someone that's, doing the emotional abuse, um, you they have to make you feel like your self-worth is kind of wrapped up. Well, you don't have your self-worth is low, and any self-worth that you do have is wrapped up in them. And so you stay connected to them.
This is why it is so incredibly dangerous to
Mhm.
approach dating with the mindset that it's going to complete you,
Yeah.
or that this is somehow now going to fix your identity or even perhaps enhance your identity, rather than recognizing you have value all by
All by
yourself.
yourself. All by
All
yourself.
by yourself. You were made in the image of God, all by yourself.
And I want to say this too, because this is just making me go from step to step. Because my story, I mean, I don't think about it all the time, but we're talking about it some this evening. That relationship that I got in was because it was a rebound. Like I didn't
Wow.
really, I had just come out of a 2 year, situation that was actually a very healthy relationship, but we broke up and my heart was broken. And then there was
Mhm,
this other guy who was just always kind of in the wings, kind of like clamoring,
mhm,
like maybe.
mhm,
And then
mhm,
I'm so hurt and heartbroken that I was like, oh, okay, I'll give you a chance. And I didn't even really
mhm.
like him, but my judgment was off because I was in a rebound. I was really still in love with the other person, right? So I always even tell my young people, especially my student clients, I'm like, do not enter into another relationship as a rebound, because your heart is first of all, your judgment is off. You're hurt, you're wounded, you're not ready to be in another relationship. You're not bringing this next relation, you're not bringing even your best to the next relationship because it's too closely connected to the last one. You definitely need that time to heal and fully get over the last relationship. So I just want to put that out there since we're talking about singles. It's easy to jump from relationship to relationship because we don't like to have any space by ourselves to just be alone. But we need that alone time so we can grow and to learn from the mistakes that we may have made personally in that last relationship. And then to review of like, okay, this is what I'm looking for in the next person. I don't want some of the same things that I had in the last one. And just to heal from it, you need to be healed.
And to rebuild your self-worth, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to rebuild your self-worth, because and why do you need self-worth? You need self-worth for a lot of reasons, but one of the important reasons is an important part of having a healthy relationship is setting boundaries. And if a
Right.
person violates your boundaries, you have to enforce consequences. And a
Mm,
lot of times, if your self-worth is not intact, you're not going to feel like you're entitled to set boundaries or even enforce consequences.
mhm.
So that's why that becomes so important. Okay, so there was a question. Was it a comment by Cindy?
I
You
think
said
it's
something about, yeah,
I
you
think
said,
it's a
yeah,
comment.
you said they narcissists abuse train you to accept bad behavior from them that you're worth that treatment. Yeah,
Mhm.
so there's this that kind of undermines your self-worth, or it
Right.
validates the lack of self-worth is what Cindy's getting
Mhm.
at. Thank you for that comment, Cindy.
Mhm.
Um, what else?
Um,
She also said, it has helped for me to learn about my vulnerabilities to certain
mhm.
types of men. Counseling to learn about how you've been wired really helps. That's really profound because,
Very profound, and I'm so happy to hear you say that counseling has really helped you with that, Cindy.
well,
Um, Go ahead.
it's interesting because there are so many other things that we do in life that we get training for. But when it comes to the most important, challenging, and difficult relationship we'll ever get into, so many of us are comfortable going into it without the training.
Mhm.
And that can really be a mistake because a lot of relating is counterintuitive.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's very interesting.
I was happy to hear Cindy put that second part of her comment up there because, a lot of people will, we talk about narcissism and a narcissist and those type of things, and I think it's important to, to be aware and to recognize that. But then also, she's saying she went to counseling and she's, realizing her vulnerabilities on why she would even begin to date somebody like that. Like, why didn't the red flags go off? Because there's red flags. There was red flags to even my abusive relationship that I was in, but because I was so hurt and wounded, I did not, recognize them. But it's good that, to go into counseling and to learn those things. So as you're moving forward, you're looking for some of those, or if you see some of those red flags, you will know to just keep it moving, keep it moving.
Well,
'Cause that's not somebody you want to date.
right. Well, and then the other piece being that sometimes with trauma, you habituate to the trauma so
Hmm.
that you develop skills for dealing with that trauma so that sometimes now you're drawn to that trauma.
Right.
And so you get girls, for example, who like the bad boys, who, and that feeling of excitement,
Hmm.
um, they're actually drawn to, you know, um, the ups, the downs, the toxicity has appeal. Like you can have a life experience that literally makes that appealing.
Hmm.
Well, the truth, guys, is a nice, vibrant relationship, a nice, vibrant marriage is boring. If you're married, a lot of it is boring. Obviously, there are moments where you can go out, you can have a good time, and sometimes sitting. But like, it's a blessing that if a person says I'm coming at 6, they come at 6. They do what's expected, and it's not these wild, torrid, events. What do you think, sis?
No, I'm
I-
just laughing because you said it's boring. I was like, it's not boring, but I know what you mean. I know compared to, I know,
It's routine,
yes,
as
it's routine.
opposed to people showing up your door. And,
Yeah, no, it's
you're
routine.
getting
Like,
in a fight.
yeah, when you're married for so long, it's definitely a routine. And you're like, wait a minute, that was off, because they didn't do what they normally do. But yes,
Right. Like
I hear
it's
what you're
it's
saying.
routine. I mean, but I use the word boredom, but I like peace. I mean,
Yes, it's peaceful and
truly what it really is peaceful.
it's content, like you can trust. Yeah, it's peaceful because you can trust and it's safe. It's safe.
Right.
It should, if it's not safe, there's something wrong. But there was a question that Amber had up there, and I know Joanne, there was something, but I wanted to put, because I think how does a single person know if the Lord has called them to a life of celibacy and singleness? Oh, to just be single for their whole life? Is that what you're saying, Amra? Or just to be celibate and single? You can put a one if that's what you're saying, Amra. I think that's what you're saying. Is that how you're taking the question,
Yeah, how does a single
Dr.
person
White?
know if the Lord has called him to a life of celibacy and singleness? I would think God would have communicated that to you in some way or another. I would think that
Yeah.
God would have communicated that to you in some kind of meaningful way. Um, you
But I
know
think
what I
that's very, very, very far and in between because the Bible also says it's not good for man to be alone.
Well, when I was a child, when I was younger in my
Mhm.
spiritual journey, I used to think God was harsh and exacting and not trustworthy. I
Yeah.
always feared that God was going to call me to do something crazy or out of this world or nuts. Like, I mean, can we just keep it real? You saw him
I
make
never thought
Jose,
that.
you saw him make Hosea marry Gomer. You
Mm,
saw him tell
true. Yeah, that was
Abraham
crazy.
go kill his son. You
True.
saw him,
Got it.
tell like so it's like you see these things, and then it's like God would just pull me back in the story and be like, look, your generation is so wretched. I can't depend on you guys for anything.
Mm-mm.
So
Mm-mm.
all the hard stuff I got done with these prior
Because
generations.
what man do you know today would like if
There
God
you
God would
go.
have to come down and say if he told you to have married a Homer, like
I'm joking with what I'm saying, so please don't send a bunch of mail to Living Manna. Obviously, there's still prophets in every
there
generation that
is, but
that
it's a
have
different
not
time.
bent their knees to Baal. Okay, they're
True.
always. But my point being, God is so much more rational than we give him credit. God is not going to be asking you to do crazy things. And with this issue of celibacy and singleness, I don't see God calling a lot of people to that.
I don't either.
I
And
don't
not
I don't I don't see it. I think you find a person, you establish a covenant, and you honor that covenant, but I don't see God. But whatever the case, have your relationship with God and
and
establish
he
that
shall direct
communication
your path.
so you can have clarity. So you can have
Mhm.
clarity. I hope that answers your question, Amra.
I hope so too. And then Joanne had one that it was up there, but that I kind of like.
What is the proper etiquette about dating early on? Is the man always expected to pay? No, no.
Not
I'm
in this generation, or not nowadays. I don't think. Well,
now
gosh,
personally, personally, in my mindset, right? Like you're modeling taking care of this person.
true.
You're modeling taking care of this person. Why on earth would this be an issue for you? Now, let me be clear though. Let me be clear. So when me and my wife got together, she was a nurse. I was a medical student. Um, so she was the breadwinner. So I mean, she was paying for stuff. She was so cute. Sometimes she would slide me the credit card. So
Oh, so it make it look like you. Oh, that's very cute.
she
That
was
tell her
so
I said that's very cute.
she was so sweet. She was so sweet.
That is sweet.
Um, but at the end of the day, um, I enjoy taking care of my love.
Of
It's
course.
like, so why would I care? Okay, let's go 50-50. Or I mean, unless it's just an economic issue, like, baby, look, I don't have it right now. So if we're going out, I hope you're gonna handle it.
Right.
But that aside, it should be fun, I would think, to take care of, a person. And I tell you, if it wasn't a person I was enthused to take out, I wouldn't go out with them.
Right.
You know,
Right.
why are you
Right.
going out with a person that you're not enthused to take out? So
Right.
um,
So Joanna's, she has like I don't know, maybe I don't know, I don't know what this means. In Trinidad, women walk with their Vex money on a date. Do you know what that means?
I have the foggiest idea what that means. I'm going to. I know vex means angry.
That's what I
I know
thought.
vex means angry, and so I wonder if she
Tell us
means.
more, Joanne. Tell us what
Yeah,
that
break
means.
break that down. What if it means they get upset, so they have their money to do whatever they want? I don't. But you got to break that one down for me. Um, yeah.
I'm just going through some of these questions. We only have time for a few more. Um,
I think we need to keep some things old school. Everything does not have to be new. I think a man should pay for the date no matter what millennials say. Dude, I'm with
Yeah,
you.
I'm with you on that too.
I'm with you on that. I mean, to me, that's fun.
Mhm,
To me, that's fun.
mhm. I have daughters. I expect if they're going out on a date that that date is paying because I don't want them to run out of money because then they'll come ask me for
Well,
money.
obviously, I make sure my kid's gonna have her money, but it's like if
Right,
you're stepping up as her quote unquote man.
right. No, of course.
Now that said, in college, you don't need to floss. You don't need to pretend you don't have, money. So I
Right,
mean, if you don't have money, you sometimes you might not have money.
right.
But I just mean there's this attitude today where sometimes it's like guys don't feel like they should have to pay, even if they have money. And I think there's something wrong with that.
Oh, Joanne's saying that their vex money is if the date is going wrong, we pay for the bill and leave.
Oh, okay.
That okay, well that's fun. Makes sense. Yeah,
Uh,
I think
I
Amber
think
said that she used to have I think that she used to, I don't know, do something like that, or just pay for she would do coffee dates so that it was like if she didn't like the person, she would just pay for the coffee because it was cheap and then she wouldn't
I,
have
I
to.
heard that. I heard that same coffee
I'm
date
probably
thing.
saying it wrong, Amber,
Like,
but
like they take them on a coffee date to see if they're worthy of a more expensive date. Like,
right.
dude, you're on the date too. Like, how cheap could you be that you're going to subject yourself to a
Mhm.
compromised experience? Again, if the person is not inspiring me to go all out, like I wouldn't go all out, period. But anyway,
Mhm.
that's just
Mhm.
me. Maybe I'm too old school. If the date, yeah, we got that one. All right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, we're about we are just about have a couple minutes left, but what would be your closing remarks as this is our third and I think final on thing
Yeah,
on
we can do
dating?
final.
Is
We can
it
do
third
final.
and final? Yes. But we appreciate all of you being here. But what would your final remarks be about dating to close us
I
off?
I I believe dating should be approached with the gravity that it deserves.
Mhm.
You got to remember that dating ultimately leads at times to relationship where you're literally lying down next to a person. Not I'm saying like so you get married to him. That's a
Mhm.
lot of trust.
Right.
That is a lot of trust. Um, and even before you get to that point, if you're on a date and the person's driving you, you're alone with that person. You're vulnerable with that person. So you really should put some thought into systems where you can identify and verify who is this person.
Mhm.
And you want to get at as quickly as possible what are their intentions? What are their intentions?
Right.
Um, because you don't want to needlessly put yourself at risk.
Mhm.
Uh, so, and I think the big thing that we talked about here was go into it after you're clear on your self-worth.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
don't don't date until you're clear about your self-worth, and don't go to a relationship to identify your self-worth
Mhm.
because that can be dangerous.
Mhm.
And so you see there are things that'll damage your self-worth, sometimes like being wounded in a relationship.
Mhm.
So that's why you need to heal, reconstitute your self-worth before you jump into another relationship. But we're not your mental health providers, so
Right.
consult your own mental health team. But these
Yeah.
are just some of the principles we've seen work with our patients.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And to really just focus on while you're waiting for this person to come into your life, just really focus on yourself, prepare yourself so that when you do meet that person that God wants you to be with, you will have done some of the work that needs to be done, allowing God to do it on your heart, maybe working with a mental health professional as well, just working through some of those childhood issues that we bring into our adult life and into our relationships. I think it's so important to be aware and to be addressing them and working on those. That is so very important. So that would
Well,
be
well
my
said.
closing. Yeah, that would be
So
my closing remark.
Cindy brought up this point that I think it's really important for women to understand. She said there's a ratio issue. There's more women than men. Um, Cindy, what I would encourage you to recognize is, but there's only one you.
Hmm.
But there's only one you. And when you make that the best you possible,
Yeah.
that's pretty competitive. Because however many women there are, one thing you are is unique. You are a unique offering. When you understand that, it it gets you out of this defeated frame of thinking of, well, there's more women than men. The reality is women who make their offering competitive, they get into a smaller pool. And a lot of men are pursuing that. So your job is make yourself your best you,
Yes.
and God will take care of the rest.
He really will. He really will. Well, we just want to thank everyone for joining us this evening and joining us for this topic throughout the last 3 weeks. And we will come and revisit this again. There's nothing telling us we cannot, but definitely join us next week as we will continue to talk about mental health issues or relationship issues that impact your life. And so, yeah, definitely share these three parts. It's a series now, a three-part series. You can share this on your social media and with someone that you think would really benefit from the things that we have shared here. And so, thank you again, and we look forward to seeing you right back here next Monday for Mental Health Mondays. Have a good evening.
Absolutely. Good seeing you, sis. All the best.
All right, you too. Bye bye.